84 WHAS. We are barreling through a Tuesday, and I'm happy, very, very happy to invite back to the show Alan Claypool, who has had how many times have you been on now, Alan? Twice? Alan has a company, TAC4's Solutions, and I'm going to let you give the background on how TAC4 operates, because that's important to laying the groundwork for how these events have come about.
It is the entire reason that we started the event. So TAC4's Solutions, what we do is instill organizational health with companies. We do that by improving processes and by managing projects. And so on all of our projects, whether it's a culture project or a technical project, we start with ground rules. We start with the 9 ground rules for cohesive team behavior. And what those ground rules do is get people to be solutions-oriented and respectful toward each other so that they're really working to get to the root cause of problems in business. And we gave seminars about these ground rules to the public, open to the public. And in one of the seminars, somebody raised their hand and said, "How do you apply these ground rules to politics?" And I laughed and said, "I don't. I accuse people of horrible motives, and I blame people for all sorts of things in the arena of politics." And that really challenged me to say, why do I have one outlier of my life where I'm not living by the ground rules that I advocate? And so we started this event called Tackle with TAC4, where we pull together 2 panelists from opposite sides of an issue, usually a heated, controversial issue, where normally people can't have respectful civil conversation because they're so emotional about it. And our ground rules have an amazing way of bringing people together to say, no, I need to actually listen to your points. I need to hear why you think what you're thinking instead of just assume all sorts of bad things about you. And that's going to help inform my solutions to be something better than they were before. This works in business incredibly well. We've really had some success stories of businesses or projects that were kind of falling apart and getting people to start listening to each other and working well together. And so we said, I wonder if this can work in politics. I don't know if it can or not. And we tried it a couple of times, and we've had 2 really good debates prior. And so this is our 3rd debate. Okay,
let's talk about the ground rules, because this one is going to be on gun control. And you and I were talking off the air. And other than abortion, I don't know of a more emotional, fiery topic than gun control. And it gets difficult, and I'm guilty of this as well. You know, you get fired up and you're frustrated that you can't make the other side understand where you're coming from. And this issue especially, I think that there has been an effort, either subtle or blatant, to demonize those who believe strongly in the Second Amendment as somehow unfeeling and uncaring about these horrible gun crimes that happen.
That's correct. And that's correct not just from the left, but from the right. Similarly, we always try to demonize each other and get people to only listen to our side. But the real way, are we really caring about solving our problems, or do we just want to win? And that's one of our ground rules, is to stop politically positioning yourself and start caring about the truth and about actual answers to the problems.
Let's go through these ground rules. And these are ground rules that are given to each of the people arguing whatever their position is. And it starts with number 1, show respect, assume good motives. Now, Alan, since the first time you've been on this show, I have been trying.
Yes.
I even say it on the show. I'm trying to assume good motives here. It gets more and more difficult, especially with gun control, to assume good motives that make sense, that make rational sense. Of course, no one wants children to be killed. Of course.
Yes.
But to make decisions that undermine the fabric of the country based on an emotional reaction to a horrible crime, for a lot of us, doesn't make sense. So how do you put this in context? How do you assume good motives on this issue?
So let's take it to business first. And in business, what we say is it's not that everyone's behavior is good. People have bad behavior all over the place. But what they do have is they wake up in the morning wanting to make the world a better place. When they first wake up, their wish is that I wish I could fulfill my role in the society of making the world a better place. But by the time they get downstairs, they've tripped over their dog, the cup of coffee spills on them, their wife nags them, they read the paper, they drive to work with people cutting them off. Behavior has assaulted them, and now their behavior matches bad behavior. And so in all situations, what we need to get in touch with is the reality that none of us want to just piss off. Oops, or are we allowed to say that?
I said it earlier. Go ahead.
Sorry. I'm on the radio. None of us want to just is piss off each other. What we really want to do is make the world a better place. But it's a very difficult world of constraints. We all have different solutions on what the definition of better is. And so we do need to consider and realize that in the moment that I'm frustrated with you, I still know that you are wanting to make the world a better place. You do,
even if we disagree on the definition of better.
Exactly right. We do have different. Us and Al Qaeda have very different definitions, but do they want to make the world a better place?
Yeah, using their sketchy definition,
exactly right. They do. And so, and if we don't assume good motives from people, then they're not going to hear us because they know they have good motives, right? As soon as I get from you that you think that I'm a bad person or that you think that I've got bad motives, I just turn you off. I just stop listening to you because I know better. I know that I have good motives. And so if I'm hearing you assume bad motives of me, I just turn you off because you're no longer aligned with my truth, with what I see as reality. But if I instead hear from you that you are listening to me, that you actually are considering what I have to say and are not accusing me of something, then I'm still in the conversation with you. I'm still listening to those good, valid points that you may have. And so assuming good motives is a crucial portion of us being able to get to the root causes of our problems.
That is a tall order.
It is.
I mean, that is a very tall order, especially in an emotionally charged topic like this one.
Yes.
And it almost requires us to be better than we are.
Absolutely.
You know, and
to
like
be our
I said,
very best during these. But these are hard problems. Do we want to solve our super hard problems or do we not want to? I want to really solve our super hard problems. And so the only way we're going to do that is if we are our best self. So we better have a set of ground rules that keep us being in tune with each other as the good people that we want to be. And let's really figure out what the root cause of our problems are. Assuming good motives, showing respect to each other is step one, a crucial part of it.
Number two, we're going to read this and then we're going to take a break and then we'll come back and go through the other 6 steps. They're very quick. But number 2 is do not complain without offering solutions with realistic action steps. That's a big part of this particular debate.
It is.
Because lots of people have ideas. Mm-hmm. But and this is one of the things that I've been doing in these discussions is simply tell me how you do that. Because in all honesty, it would be nifty if no one in the world at all had arms. If we were all, woohoo, we were all arm free. But it would not stop bad people from figuring out a way to do harm.
We need to actually have realistic steps that are going to solve our problems. Exactly right. Okay,
we're going to take a very quick time out. I'm with Alan Claypool. I'll tell you how you can come to this event, this Tackle with TAC4 Solutions. I've linked to it. It should be updated on my blog in just a moment. But if you're on Facebook, you can search Tackle with TAC4, TAC4, the number 4, on Facebook, and go ahead and like them because you want to get more information about these. We'll be back with Alan Claypool right after this on 84 WHAS. 27 degrees on 84 WHAS in the studio with Alan Claypool from TAC4 Solutions. And TAC4 is doing a Tackle with TAC4 event next Tuesday night. And it is going to be a debate on gun control. But this debate will be a little bit different. Who is doing the debating, by the way?
It's Charles Riggs from KC3.
Who was just on the show last week.
Thank you. Actually, you hooked us up with him, and I appreciate that. And then Keith Ruda from MoveOn.org. He's the director of Kentucky MoveOn.org.
So we're going to have the opposite sides, but they have to work under a framework that has 7 rules. Number 1, we talked about in the last segment, show respect, assuming good motives. Number 2, do not complain without offering solutions with realistic action steps. Number 3, blame the process, not the person. Explain that.
Yes, so this entails, first of all, no longer believing that you've got ultimate truth, that all of the things in your head are right. They are right for the way you see the world, but they're not right for the way the other person sees the world. I'm not saying that there isn't absolute truth. I do believe there is absolute truth, but we all see truth a little differently, and the way I'm seeing it is not perfectly aligned with truth. So I need to question my own virtue. I need to question my own view of how I see the world and listen to the other side, not with blame, instead listening to the other person and hearing their needs, hearing why they think what they think, because I'm not going to be able to solve the real problem unless I'm hearing their side. If my side was perfect and was meeting all their needs, they wouldn't have any complaints. There are needs that the other side has that I'm not hearing and I'm not meeting. And so if I actually hear what their concerns are and I figure out a new solution that meets my needs and their needs, hey, we've just solved it and we don't have anything to hurt each other about anymore.
Okay.
Blame the process, not the person. The people aren't wrong. Let's find a new solution that's going to work for all of our needs.
Number 4, clarify opinion from fact.
In politics, oh my word, how often do we hear people say that something is true when it's really just their opinion? And so we have for politics a ground rule that says it's okay for you to have your opinion, but you have to state, this is my opinion. You constantly have to be, the panelists who are debating constantly have to be saying, I believe this, or I think this is my opinion. Because as soon as they start clarifying something that it's as though it's true, stating something as though it's true, I call them on it and say, now that sounds like an opinion that you're declaring as a fact.
Let me ask you, because in this respect, and I'm going to use a specific example. The specific example is the effectiveness of the prior assault weapons ban. Now, I've done extensive reading on the handful of studies, and there's not a volume of information on this. It's not like this has really been analyzed. If you look at studies from the gun control crowd, it was wildly effective and was super effective and reduced gun crime and blah, blah, blah. But if you look at the right, it had no impact at all. The only study that I could find that appeared to be, and of course I don't have access to every single motive of whoever was involved, they literally said if it had an impact, it was such a negligible impact that it could not be properly attributed. Mm-hmm. Now, a gun control enthusiast would, of course, look at the study that says it was wildly effective, and that becomes their fact. Mm-hmm. The anti-gun enthusiast goes to the study that says it had no impact at all, and that's their fact. Mm-hmm. So how do you, in this world of studies that are agenda-driven, some are, some aren't, how do you ferret out fact from opinion, even when it comes to, I've got documentation to back it up?
We have a rule with our ground rules, clarify opinion from fact, specifically says if you're quoting statistics, you have to declare those as opinion for the most part. That statistics, raw data from statistics, that's fact. Raw data meaning we asked this question and 4 people answered this way. That's fact. But almost anything else, any conclusion you would draw from a survey or from a study of any kind, there is all sorts of worldview that's mixed in with those surveys. And so I was a math major in college, and we read a book called How to Lie with Statistics. And that's what happens most of the time with statistics and studies. It's not that people are lying, but it is that people are deeply embedding their worldview into the results of those statistics. And so every time that the panelists declare, hey, here's what the statistic said, or a survey said this, or here's a study, they have to say, and my worldview is mixed in with this study, and therefore I believe the results of this study over the other side. If we're really going to get to a solution, we have to really be listening beyond those studies at what people's needs are and really hear what people's needs are to get to something that's going to work better.
Okay. Number 5, seek the truth over political positioning. This one, that's the toughest one in D.C. I don't think it ever happens.
It never happens in D.C. No. It seldom happens in any of our conversations, not just in business, but not just in politics, but even in business. We are also politically positioning in business. We want our way. We've already thought through things as much as we want to, and we think we know the answer. And so all of our talking is just going to be to try to manipulate that answer and get it to be the what happens. What we have to do inside of Tackle with TAC4 instead is let's really get to truth. Let's really get to what's going to solve our problems. And that's what I constantly have to be seeking. If in any way there's political positioning going on, we shut it down and we say, now are you really seeking the truth? We want to get to the right answer. We all are on the same side, right? We really do want to make sure that there are no more mass murders. We really do want to get to where we have effective laws as opposed to just political positioning.
Number 6, where there are moral, philosophical differences, clarify without accusation and move on. Is this the old, on this we will agree to disagree?
It is, but even with the agree to disagree, it's saying let's first make sure we are really down to the core moral philosophical difference. Let's not just disagree and say, well, we'll never agree on this and move on. Let's really start asking questions. Let's ask, why do you believe that? Why do you believe that? And then when you get down to a core moral difference, like for instance, well, you believe in absolute truth and I don't believe in absolute truth or something like that. That's a core moral philosophical difference. Let's declare what that is. Here's the difference. no accusations, and we'll move on to something that's going to – now we at least understand why you're getting the solutions you're getting but that are different from mine, because we have a core moral philosophical difference.
We got one more rule with Alan Claypool, and we're going to tell you where the event is, how you can go, all that good stuff right after this. But first, the Republic Bank and Trust Company Bloomberg Update. 84 WHAS. I'm in the studio with Alan Claypool from TAC4 Solutions. They're doing their next Tackle with TAC4 panel discussion, and it is on gun control. And Alan, I love these. I for whatever reason, our scheduling has been awful, and I've already had an event scheduled. You need to check with my calendar before you schedule the next one. But I know that you are videotaping these, and we'll hopefully be making them widely available to people. And
yes, it is true. The prior debate that we had in September on universal health coverage is on YouTube. You can see the entire event on YouTube.
How do people find that on YouTube?
Just go to YouTube and search for Tackle with TAC4.
Tackle with TAC4, and that 4 is the number 4. I also put a link to the website or the Facebook page that has the event invitation. This event is free?
No, it's $10 at the door and $9 in advance, and that's because those go to charity. All of the proceeds go to charity. Both panelists will bring a charity of their choice, and we allocate the funds to those two charities based on how well the panelists live by the ground rules during the debate. It's
like celebrity $25,000 pyramid.
There you go.
There you go. The last rule, and I'm going to whip through these because we get people who join on the half hour. The ground rules for debate are, number 1, show respect, assuming good motives. Number 2, do not complain without offering solutions with realistic action steps. Number 3, blame the process, not the person. I believe that you could encapsulate that one by saying, don't hate the player, hate the game. Number 4, clarify opinion from fact. Number 5, seek the truth over political positioning. Number 6, where there are moral, philosophical differences, clarify without accusation and move on. And number 7, hold yourself and others accountable to words and commitments with consequences. What does that mean?
So on number 7, it is something that we do outside of the debate. So we are judging the panelists based on the first 6 ground rules, because holding people accountable is more an ongoing action. So this is really the directive to the audience. It's to say we have now talked through problems and solutions on this panel. And so we need you, the audience, to hold yourself accountable to making sure you're living by these ground rules, but also hold the panelists, hold the politicians accountable to what they say they're going to do. And that's through our vote. That's through caring about issues and talking about it respectfully. Hopefully people are living by the ground rules. These ground rules, we're educating the audience and the panelists on how to live by these ground rules in the daily conversations that they have about politics. And so really, it's holding yourself accountable to your words. When I'm having a debate about politics, do I go for the jugular and make a bunch of cheap shots, or do I
make a bad analogy that is unnecessarily upsetting?
Do I make a bad analogy?
I mean, in all honesty, yeah.
Sure.
You do have to think about those things.
Absolutely. And so am I instead listening to the other side, hearing their needs, changing my solutions, not compromising, but understanding that my current solution does not solve their needs. That's why they care. So that's why they're fighting with us on these issues. So am I really listening to their needs, letting them know my needs, and let's come up with a solution that's going to work for both of us? We have seen this work in business dramatically.
Well, you've had great success at the last 2 of these forums that you've done. Where there's been a level of dialogue that previously probably would have been unattainable.
Absolutely.
Considering, we've got a guy from Kentucky, concealed carry, Charles Riggs, who's just a wonderful advocate for gun rights. And then you have a gentleman from MoveOn.org, which is talk about a completely different political viewpoint.
Yes.
So that's happening next Tuesday at the Creative Workshop. Where's Creative Workshop?
In Butchertown.
In Butchertown. You can find all the information, including an event invite form, at the Facebook page. It is simply search Tackle with TAC4, TAC, the number 4. It's happening from 6:15 to 8:30 p.m. a week from today.
A week from tonight, yes.
And, I would love for you to let me know when it's up, and I will find the YouTube link and link to the prior panel discussion because of this. Alan, I told you off the air, it's these steps, seemingly very simple, encapsulated on one page. As a matter of fact, if you can get me an electronic copy of this, I'll put them on the blog as well. they are truly so simple when you read them, but they require a tremendous amount of effort from individuals, including me, to live up to this standard. This is a standard of dialogue that we certainly don't meet on a regular basis. I'm as guilty of it as everybody else. But I think that if we all simply made the effort to live to this standard, we would be able to communicate, even if we can't come to an agreement on what to do about these problems, because I fear, and I fear greatly, that the gun control issue in and of itself, we have two opposing positions that are using a different foundation for their opinions. So we're not arguing apples to apples here. One team is arguing, that the sky is blue. The other team is arguing that the sky doesn't exist. So
I suggest that might be the case, but I suggest further that I think we haven't been living by such ground rules to even know if that's the case. I believe that if we started living by these ground rules, showing respect to each other, listening to the needs of the other side and hearing their complaints and hearing their true concerns as to why they believe that side, whatever that side is, and if we truly said, how can we come up with a new solution that works for both of these needs? This is exactly what we do in business, and it absolutely gets you to work, gets you to a new solution. If we don't get there, we're not going to solve the problem. It is true that we call these almost like a master's degree in character. And it's because you are right that it does require a much higher bettering of ourselves and a much higher level of conversation. But it's what you have to do if you're going to solve the problem. If you don't want to solve the problem, live the normal way. If you want to solve the problem, step up and live this way, and you're going to be able to hear the other people and get to a new solution.
Well, we say all the time the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We're not solving the problems that we have politically using our current
in business,
process.
That's what we've seen as well, that the answers aren't getting there. We're not getting to the solutions. And as soon as we start living by the business version of these ground rules, people start behaving well and they get to the root cause of their problems and it fixes stuff. This really has not been tried very often in business or in politics, and it works when you do it.
I wonder, I'm going to send these to Congressman John Yarmouth before he comes on the show again. And I will say, this is the way I'm going to approach our conversation. I ask that you do the same. And then hopefully we can have a more productive dialogue, because right now he's not hearing me. I'm not hearing him.
The smile on my face is very large.
I love having you on the show because you make me think about my own behavior and make me strive to be a better person, and therefore, in all honesty, a better talk show host.
You've got great ideas, and so if you also live this way, you're going to help create new solutions that aren't out there.
And that is key. I'm kind of obsessed right now with an article that I'll email you about the classical liberal model and what's happening right now, in that we are looking for solutions to problems of decades ago instead of recognizing that the way we do business now in life may not be effective to solve the current set of problems that we have. That's not to say we need to overthrow the Constitution or anything drastic like that, but we may need to think in a different fashion about some of the issues that face us in our society. Good. So, Alan Claypool, how can people, if they're out there in the business community and want you to come into their workplace environment or apply any of these, how can they contact you?
On our website, www.TAC4solutions.com. That's TAC, the number 4 solutions.com, and there's a contact us link on there.
I got to tell you, if I had an organization or anything, I would have you come speak to them. I'm a huge fan.
Wonderful. Huge
fan. And I don't normally unabashedly fawn. There's very few people I unabashedly fawn over. But Alan, I appreciate this. Again, the event is next Tuesday night from 6:15 to 8:30 p.m. I would love it if some of you guys would go and then come to Cocktails and Conversation on Thursday. You want to come to Cocktails and Conversation on Thursday night?
That's this week.
No, a week from Thursday.
I'm in West Virginia.
Dang it!
I know. We will get together.
What does West Virginia need with you? Come on! Anyway, Alan, I appreciate you coming in, and I can't wait to see the video of this one.
Good. Thank you.
We'll be back after this. I told Alan, one of the reasons I love having him on the show is because I think this conversation and this topic inspires introspection. I know it does in me, and I'm curious to see if it does the same for you. 571-8484, 1-800-444-8484. Back after this on 84 WHAS. 84 WHAS. The information about the Tackle with TAC4 event, it's happening next Tuesday, a week from today, at the Creative Workshop from 6:15 to 8:30 p.m. I have linked to them on my blog, to their Facebook site, which has the event information. You can go to Eventbrite and locate the information there. I also just sent it out on my Facebook page, so if you like me on Facebook, then you just will look for that post that just says go to this and get all the information. I love talking to Alan because he challenges me to be better than what I am. And I think that anything that is going to make you better than what you are is definitely worth having a conversation about. But here's my question. I mean, how much of yourself did you see in some of the examples that he was giving about the way we currently discuss these issues? And like I said, I am as guilty as everyone else. You get angry, you get passionate, you feel your back against the wall, and you want to come out fighting. And truthfully, I have to say, it is difficult to have a conversation when only one person is using the strategy. I think it's very difficult to have a conversation when only one person is using the strategy. So it's kind of important that we maybe try and institute this before the conversation actually occurs. Although you could always adopt this methodology. And I would say anything that prevents people from being angry, because when I am angry, I am not at my best. I'm just not. When I get angry on the show, I'm very mad at myself later. Because you don't make the most cogent arguments. You make emotion-based arguments, and it's not productive. It's just not. 571-8484, 1-800-444-8484. John, you're on 84 WHAS.
Hey, girl, I was just listening to your last guest, and I think I have a little problem with, well, not a problem. I'm placing myself as one of those intractable people who can't be argued with, and thinking I'm always right. I don't believe that, really, but it's going to sound like that, what I've got to say. It sounds like, according to liberals, compromise equals you move off of your core principles. And it sounds like that this kind of whole.
Okay, John, your phone is breaking up. Hang on, John. Hang on. I'm going to put you on hold just for a second. Okay, I'll let Brian check in and see if your phone comes back. But your phone was, you were actually sounded like you were being abducted by aliens. So we'll come back to you. And that is one of the issues. And Alan and I are talking off the air about this stuff. And I said to him, when you have people who are arguing from two completely different points of view, it gets difficult to come to conclusion. Now, you were saying before your phone went all wobbly that it seems to liberals that compromise means you give up your principles.
Yes, ma'am. That seems to be their definition of compromise, is that you move off of what you strongly believe in and give it up, and you take my principles and my premise, and you let me, speaking on the liberal side, you let the liberals or the opposition frame all the debate and define all of the terms in the way that they think. And then compromise to them means you give up and I win. And I'm not agree with that. But what my overarching point was, it seems like this guy's saying that, well, there's everybody's good and there's not really evil out there. I believe there is evil.
Oh, no. I don't know if you heard the whole conversation, but
I did.
Yeah, but he didn't say that at all. I mean, he said, I believe in absolute truths, but I have to recognize that my absolute truths may be completely different than someone else's absolute truths. But it doesn't. You can't deny the fact. Well, but here's the definition
of absolute truth. But you're still making the absolute truth relative to your definition.
I know. I understand what you're saying. The point is that you have people who have a different set of morals who believe just as strongly that their absolute truth is the absolute truth, and until you recognize that you can't simply deny their absolute truth and say yours isn't true, mine is true, and expect to accomplish anything to further a dialogue. Now, after a long period of time and discussion, you may get to a point where you realize that at the core of the issue, you have different moral values when it comes to whatever you're talking about. And at that point, maybe you can have a discussion that would accommodate the moral values of one and accommodate the moral values of the other, instead of having it be, I deny your absolute truths while embracing mine, which is not conducive to moving a discussion and problem solving forward. That was the point. He's not saying, Alan strongly holds absolute truths that he believes to be moral absolutes. I do too. But someone else who doesn't hold those is not going to engage in a conversation if the first thing I say is, I am willing to concede that your absolute truths may be different than mine.
I understand. Okay. So, yeah, I see what you're saying.
And that's the thing, John. This is not a walk in the park.
It's some kind of solution. Yeah.
I mean, because ultimately we are a very diverse nature, where we're a diverse country, where we have people of all different stripes and nationalities and frankly core belief systems, and we can't impose one upon the other without engaging in conversation about how to make sure that they feel protected.
Okay,
in their belief system.
Yeah. We got to engage them in conversation. I understand that, but I do believe that there is moral absolute and absolute truth that doesn't start with me. That's what I think. It sounds like, well, all this absolute truth that you're thinking of, and mine is this way and yours is that way, but it somehow starts with me. I believe that there's moral absolutes that are outside of us.
I totally understand that. And
in stone, and it doesn't really matter how we feel about it. Truth is truth.
Well, and here's the thing. I understand that, and I get that, and I don't disagree with that, okay? But the fact of the matter is we're not talking about judging a moral code versus another moral code when it comes to politics. We're talking about creating a framework under which we all live that respects the differences that we have in our society, whether they are religious, whether they are political. We have to recognize that not everyone shares our belief system and our moral compass. And how do we do the best at making sure that everyone is protected from tyranny, whether you agree with it or not? I mean, that's really what it's all about. I appreciate the call very much, John. This is an incredibly difficult proposition that is written so simply. That's the devil's in the details. We'll be back. We can continue this conversation at 11:20. We're talking to CBS News' Steve Futterman about Lance the Liar after the news, traffic, and weather on 84 WHAS.